Welcome back to the DJ Sessions, where we feature the best producers, DJs, and all around people from the electronic music industry from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in all the way from sunny LA. At least it looks like it's sunny out there because it's sunny here. We have Eric Sharp on the other end. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm great, Darren. How you doing?
I'm great. You know, I want to dive right into some stuff. You are not just a DJ, a producer, a remixer, and songwriter. You're also a wellness enthusiast. I'd like to know a little bit more about that wellness enthusiast.
Yeah, that's probably my secondary passion underneath music. It's something that I really got into when I hit 30. I decided that it would be a lot easier for me to create a very fit body and maintain it than it would be to try and play catch up in my 40s, 50s, 60s. So I spent some time doing a lot of yoga, and then I hit a plateau with that and started running, and I was doing yoga and running together for a while. And then late 30s, I started strength training, maybe when I was 35. And that was just revolutionary for me. That not only got me in the best physical shape of my life, but also helped my mental health a ton. So I'm not just a physical wellness enthusiast. Mental health has also been a passion of mine for a very long time. And I try to fuse that into the messaging in the platform I'm building through my musical pursuits. That's a huge goal of mine, is to use the leverage and to use the platform and network that I'm building to have conversations about this and, encourage people to take care of their body, mind, and spirit.
The thing I love so much about that is it was around mid 2020 that I realized, actually it was before that, when we first started doing our silent disco, silent concert events. I started putting on events of my own. And as you know, in the nightlife industry, it's primarily doors open at 10. It's usually at a nightclub or venue. There's usually alcohol being served. You're usually out till 2, 3, 4 the next day, sometimes next afternoon. And, it can start to take a toll on the body. And one of the things I like to do when I shifted our events is I started doing early evening events, like 6 to 10. On the weekends, when we started doing our silent concerts, they were from 11 to 3 or 12 to 4 in the afternoon. They were family friendly. We didn't have a bar set up. I mean, people could bring their own stuff if they wanted to because we're doing this at parks. But typically, I looked at it as more of a healthy music experience, something I could do during the afternoon. Not that I'm getting old and I can't party anymore. I'm 48, but I just like that I'm not out till 4 a.m. anymore. I'm getting home at 5 a.m. after cleaning up all my gear and then falling asleep and waking up at 9 a.m. getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night. It just wasn't conducive to the lifestyle of the productiveness that I wanted to be. So one of the cool things is that we looked at is in 2020 when everything was going on and we were doing these silent concerts, kind of came out late 2020, is you think silent disco, silent concert, music's playing. But I noticed I had an open channel and people were not getting out of the house. There was nowhere to go. So came up with the concept of using one of our 3rd or 4th channels and putting on guided meditation and workouts, even like low level workout. Like the first hour would be low level workout, then medium level workout, then heavy workout, and then maybe a cool down back to that beginning workout, but with guided meditation. And people could go choose wherever they wanted to go 1,000 feet away from us and still have that instruction going on in a collaborative environment. So I'm with you on that wellness program of bringing that to the electronic music environment. I think it's a needed thing because it is so go to the bar, get your drinks, pound your shots, party all night, rinse, wash, repeat.
So many artists, their entire brand is the bender, and it's really, It makes me sad. But so I just want to say bravo to you for creating that. That's amazing. And I aspire towards that.
And I also noticed that food is important to you. Are you a bit of a chef? Are you a culinary fan of the culinary arts? Or because I came across an article and you were talking about, let me get it here. Where is the turn up the beats? Mm-hmm. And I was reading that article on you, and I didn't know if this was, there's a picture of you standing in front of the stove. So gas range, by the way, when I lived in LA, I got addicted to gas ranges, by the way.
Yeah,
up here we got electric ranges. Totally better. But I was just wondering if this was your recipe, or you have special recipes, or are you a foodie at all?
I'm a bit of a foodie, although I have to give credit to my partner for that because she was so helpful putting that together. But no, I do. I've eaten a vegan diet for a number of years now. I think, let me see, I want to say 23 years. So to do that in a healthy way, you have to cook. And now, especially as inflation has gone crazy, we buy as much vegetables as we can from the farmers market, so they're fresh and local, and we try to prepare as much food ourselves from scratch as possible. And again, I mean, she's very prolific at that and an incredible cook. I am not at her level, but I do enjoy experimenting and trying things and making things for us as well.
I literally got back from the grocery store last night, and I did my monthly stock up. Looked at the bottom of my receipt, and I was like, "What? This is like probably 30-40% higher." I felt than what it normally was, and I made dinner for my partner, my girlfriend, last night, and she likes to cook and made me wonderful. We like to cook back and forth. I'm a huge foodie. If you go to my TikTok, I think all I have is me making food right now.
Cool.
Because TikTok's like really cool. I'm into it. I'm trying to understand it and get it. I know all the kids get it.
I'm struggling with it a little bit. I mean, I post stuff on there. The same content that I post on Instagram Reels that does really, really well just doesn't seem to hit on TikTok. And also, I think I just don't have the consistency, because I can't post everything I post on Instagram on TikTok. Like, everything doesn't cross formats. And I just, the frequency that people seem to need to post on TikTok to gain traction, it's like 2, 3, 4 per day. And that's just a lot of putting themselves out there. So hats off if you're running that game. Great. I feel like I need to be more present on that platform. And I just like, I don't
we were talking about a pre-show. I mentioned Hello Wolfie.
Yeah.
I got to give Arjun and that team a plug, because it definitely changed my life after using all the tools. And TikTok is one of the integrated platforms along with Instagram, so you can pop it in there. The one thing I noticed though is TikTok only allows you to do 150 characters. Almost like the old Twitter days when it was built off the text messaging platform. You only put 140 characters in there. So that's kind of a little annoying, because you run out of hashtags really quickly. And, you want to reach that with hashtags, where Instagram will let you put 30 hashtags and it gets a little bit more, on the word side of things. But hello, Wolfie. There's my plug.
Right on. And also with TikTok, there's not really a need for captions. That's one of the differences about it, is it's a native sound on platform. So you're explaining or you're captioning it in the video. So almost always underneath, it's almost exclusively hashtags with maybe like a tiny little blurb, which is very different from what you would do on Instagram, because a lot of people are scrolling and don't have the sound up.
Well, and Instagram doesn't allow links either.
Correct.
Yeah, which is kind of like, okay.
I mean, that's Meta's whole thing. They want to keep you in their ecosystem forever.
Exactly.
Completely distracted and going down rabbit holes until you die.
Exactly.
Because you haven't eaten.
Well, switching gears here a little bit, you have been playing at a very amazing nightclub. I heard one of the best nightclubs. I was looking it up last week in an interview I was doing with a couple guys go by Party Shirt, and they were talking about Sound Nightclub. And I thought that I had visited Sound in the past, but it wasn't Sound Nightclub. It might have been Sound Nightclub, but so many nightclubs in LA, and it was years ago. So who even knows it's still there? But tell us what it's been like playing at Sound Nightclub over these years.
It's an amazing venue. I love the size of the room. I think the legal cap is around 600. You can stuff a little bit more in there, but there's not a lot of those mid-sized venues in Los Angeles. You have little dive bars, and then you have enormous. There's a couple big clubs, but then it's like theaters and arena type things. So there's not a lot of kind of mid-sized rooms, and it's just it's tuned incredibly well there. It's a cliche, but it's named Sound for a reason. It sounds incredible in there. So their curation is very top notch. I want to just rattle off a few of the artists I've played with there over the years. It'd be Dirty South, Hot Since '82, Kidnap, Georgia and Julie, Jan Blomqvist. Felix the House Cat, Holy Ghost. So like this wide range of incredible house and house adjacent talent. They do some techno, they used to do a little more like analog disco, less of that right now. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience, and the crowd that comes there, and this is really hard to find in LA. The crowd that comes there is there to experience the music and dance. A lot of spots in LA, even if they're packed, people are there to be seen. They're there to try to meet their next agent that's going to get them their next acting contract. It's all this pomp and circumstance. And the music it's not quite an afterthought, but it's not the central part of the experience. And the sound will be low, or it's just, it's just not, or, even if seems to be built around the music, a lot of the crowd will be very self-conscious. They don't want to let themselves go because and to be fair, you never know who's in a room in this city. So,
yeah.
You don't want to act a fool. And so I get that to an extent, but also like if I'm going out dancing, I think I'm a good dancer, so I think I look good while I'm dancing. But even if not, like I'm there to experience the music and have a release and have a good time. And so what I will say for Sound Nightclub is that is the audience that they have built. It's an educated audience, and it's also an audience that's up for experimentation. So I can go off the beaten path. I can play new things or old things that not everybody knows, and as long as it's a good track that hits, they'll go off. So yeah, it's great. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about that venue, and then the crew, framework that's behind it. They curate the Yuma tent at Coachella. They curate the Art of the Wild Festival in Las Vegas. They do a lot of larger scale outdoor events in Los Angeles. They really bring a lot to the community and bring this touch of, I think, kind of refined curation. It's a little bit more mature. They're not really generally catering to college kids that just discovered, rave music. It's a little bit more refined. I think it's a little bit further down the path when people have crossed past the more mainstream EDM and dubstep and that, the whole thing. That's kind of the entry point for a lot of people. For me, it was hard house in the 90s, but when you're a kid, it's like you have all this energy, you just want to go. But then as you get deeper into the music, you become, I think, a little bit more open to more subtle sounds. And they do an awesome job of pushing that and kind of being on the forefront of new trends too, without trend hopping. I think on the more sophisticated side, they're incredible about that. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to work with those guys over the years, and I feel really grateful and proud of the work I've done with them.
Two artists that you mentioned, Hot Sense 82 and Felix the House Cat. I'll never forget the first time. It probably wasn't the first time I heard a Hot Sense 82 song, but it was a hit and run. And Anthony Atala had come by our show, and he dropped it in the studio, and I walked around from behind, got up on the decks and said, I went to go take a picture of it. He goes, dude, if you want this track, I'll give it to you. I will forever remember that. And there was a really funny story about how I met Anthony Atala that weekend without knowing it was him. I was at an after party, and he was playing it, and I didn't know it was him. And he shows up the next day. Anyways, Hot Sense 82, awesome people. Felix House Cat comes back to mind. Going back to the early days, he is the only person that I've done an interview with that has never aired. We had too much fun that evening.
Okay.
Lots of fun.
Was there mezcal involved?
There was.
I know me. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few bottles of Patron, a few bottles of tequila, and it was like 4 a.m. in the green room, VIP room of a club up here in Seattle. And yeah, it was a good time, good guys, good people. But we're here to talk about you. And one of the things I want to talk with you about is your latest EP, Emergent. Now, is it Emergence EP or Emergence EP? Tell us a little bit about or what inspired you to make that, and what is Emergence EP all about?
Yeah. Well, what inspired me to make a body of work and release it as an EP, and also in the titling of the EP, it's coming out of a couple of years of not very productive time for dance music. The lockdowns were definitely crushing for me from a mental health standpoint, from a career standpoint. Everything just stopped in a day. I had months of work, DJ gigs lined up that just poof, gone, and the bottom fell out of everything. And I know that a lot of people did some good work during the lockdowns. I don't even like talking about this stuff anymore because I feel like people are just over it. But like some people really embraced the online streaming and, you know, kept releasing music. And for me, so much of what drives me in this is live performance that it just didn't make sense. I just didn't see that. Why would I put a record out that no one can hear on a dance floor? You know, even though like, yeah, people could maybe hear it on a stream. I don't know. I just like it's those things. Like for me, the music production and the live performance and dancing, it all is so like inextricably linked for me that it just didn't feel right to me. It's like I've done more online stream stuff since things have reopened than I did during. So coming out of that, I wanted to, you know, I've evolved a lot as an artist. It's not like I didn't stop growing during the quarantines, but I just stopped pushing music out there. So I wanted to take a step forward and bring together a couple of disparate elements of production that I had focused on over the years. When I first started making music, I was just making club bangers. So it was like, you know, find some cheeky sample, make some cool drums and a bass line and some synths, toss it all in a blender, you know, build up whatever, you know, whatever was in vogue at that moment. And so the first couple of years I was releasing music was just straight up, like pretty straight ahead, just club banger DJ tools. And then I decided to pivot away from that and to stop focusing on that and to start focusing on music production as a craft, as a mode of creative expression. And I started getting really interested in creating everything from scratch. So, you know, not sampling at all, writing everything myself, focusing on how to compose chord progressions, how to write melodies. And then really, once I started to meet some vocalists that I felt were talented and I would be excited to work with, focusing in on songwriting. So sitting in on sessions with them. And there was an evolution from that too, where like I first started just producing instrumentals and then would do the thing where I would send it to someone and they would come up with an idea and send it back. And that worked, but I found myself releasing some music that didn't make sense with who I am as a person, and just didn't track with my life story and with my experience. And so that's when I got more hands-on about the actual songwriting process and the lyric creation and the vocal melody production. And so spent some time just kind of honing that and going down that lane. And that those records are a little bit more indie dance. I mean, they're 4 on the floor, but they're not tracks like the originals. I would rarely play in a DJ set. And I just figured like I'm going to leave the creative constraint of the dance floor behind and just write. And if I want a version of this for the dance floor, I'll either remix it myself or get someone else to remix it. So there's a number of EPs floating around that I've released that are kind of in that vein. And then, so now it's been, how do I bring those things together? How do I compose? How do I write harmonies, melodies, chord progressions, and songwriting in a format that's going to work in the club and work well in the club? Like, because I just was like, I want to make things that I also want to play again, because I had gotten away from that, and it was a conscious choice. But so, in terms of the creative process for crafting and constructing these tracks, like it's a fusion of those threads and bringing them together into a new tapestry. So I don't think I nailed it 110% perfect. I think if I could do it again, there's a track I would use less of the vocals in, but they all work. You know, these are tracks I'm playing every one of them in my DJ sets, and they're getting great responses. So that's you know, that's an accomplishment for me. You know, and there's definitely room to grow there. Each track kind of has its own arc. Like Water, which was the lead single, and it's the one that's gotten the best response and it's been received the best. That was, I initially wrote that in the kind of more indie dance songwriting composition phase. I composed, I may end up putting it out as a chill version, but I composed like a very melodic, very chill track, and then got in the studio with Sonia, who goes by Doparo, and we wrote the song aspect of it. And it was really cool because Sonia and I have a lot in common. She's definitely really focused in the mental wellness community. She does meditation retreats, breath work, this kind of thing. And so we really had like a lot of synergy. And so when we're bouncing lyrical ideas off each other, it was just like, it just flowed and it just made a lot of sense. And so that one started there, and then kind of, I sort of reproduced the whole thing when I decided what direction I wanted to go with the EP, with the more hard hitting drums and the more club focused production style and the arc of the song itself. The Gift kind of started in a similar way. It's that I did with a vocalist named Zhao, who I write with a lot, and I actually hit him up during the quarantines to do something remotely, because I figured because we had a good rapport and we'd written a lot together, it'd be a little bit easier for me to write with him versus trying to write, because the digital thing and writing is weird to me. I'm a little bit woo-woo, but I think there's a magic when you get in the room with someone, particularly in a creative endeavor. There's just like this energy that flies back and forth. And so I hit him up and he was like, I think he was maybe similarly affected by what was going. He was like, I can't write songs right now. And I was like, disappointed, but I got it. I was like, okay, I respect that. And then out of nowhere, he sends me this spoken word arrangement, I think like a month later. And so this is a recent one where I didn't write the lyrics, but I resonated with them so much. I was like, I want to bring this to light. So that's kind of where that started. And similarly, I had kind of a sketch composition I made, and then really refined it into more of a dance floor anthemic kind of vibe. And then with Laurent Jean, that one we wrote a long time ago, and the demo version will never see the light of the day for that, because it's just really different from where I'm at now. But I could never get the production right. It just took, I honestly, he did such an amazing vocal performance and just hit it so hard and so aggressive. And it took me several years for my production skills to catch up to where I could produce a track that would complement that vocal. And that's the one I don't know if I 100% nailed it, but felt good enough to at least release into the world.
And are you a classically trained? Did you go to school for production, or is this just something you jumped into and started learning on your own?
No, I'm self-taught. I grew up playing guitar and trumpet, so I have some music theory background. And I only recently, in the last 8 months, took 2 production classes at IO Academy here in Los Angeles. And I'm a little ashamed to say that those are the first production classes I've taken. I really have done a lot of this on hard mode, refusing to sample. I think that's a noble pursuit, and it's been nice that all of my tracks that have done really well have been things I've written every part of. And at the same time, I've been leapfrogged by so many people who just grab an already popular hook and loop it and sample it. And so so similarly, I think teaching myself everything, and I learned from it other people I collaborated with, or engineers that I would sit in with. But I probably learned more about production tricks in the last 8 months than I did in the first 10 years, because it's the learning curve is insane. I don't know why I think I have to do everything myself, but so I have a little bit of, I'm not classically trained on piano, but I do understand music theory from the guitar and trumpet. And that's kind of my foundation for chord structure would be guitar, and then kind of melody feel comes from my trumpet training.
And are you a hardware producer, software producer, or both?
Yes. I like both. I don't have my own studio with a bunch of analog gear. I just got the Ableton Push. Prior to that, I've been using just a really simple Behringer 24-key MIDI controller. And a lot of what I write out at proper studios that have, I've used Juno synths and Moogs and a lot of other fun stuff over the years. So, modular boxes with patch cables, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I saw you breaking out that new Ableton toy out of the box. You mentioned it was the Ableton Push you just got.
Yeah.
How long were you eyeballing that before you actually decided to get it?
Well, we had them at IO Academy. So while I was there, I really got comfortable with the workflow in it. And so when this last quarter ended, I was like, I gotta have it. So.
Nice. And question, do you have a dog? Do you have pets?
No, I had a cat that I was so in love with, and she passed last summer.
So did mine.
It's such a bummer. It's I didn't realize how close you get to companion animals until until Mrs. Meow Meow came into my life.
Oh.
She was a really, really special cat. But I dog sit a little bit, so you might see some pictures in my stories of me hanging out with doggos. I have a couple of friends that have pit bulls, and I tend to get asked to watch them, and I love pits. They're like, if they're trained well, they're the sweetest, like most friendly, kind dogs.
And are pets allowed in the studio with you when you're there? Do they help create a sense of creativity for you or calmness in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I love animals. So I right now I don't have pets. So when I'm making music at my spot, no. But if I'm out of the studio and there's a studio pet, bring it. I love them. They definitely calm me down and help me focus and just bring joy. And I think bringing joy into a studio session is never a bad thing. Unless you're trying to make like dark, new wave or witch house or something, then you probably don't want the happy vibes.
What are three major things that create inspiration for you?
Surrealist visual art is a huge one for me. Dolly is definitely an inspiration for my handlebar. So that would be one. I would say like live performances is a huge one. Like when I have a good performance and I get to rock a dance floor for an extended period, I just feel so uplifted and inspired. And so I tend to take that into the studio with me. And then I would just say the third one is my life experience. And this is something I don't know gets enough burn. I think that as you grow as a person and you gain more experience, you gain more perspective, I just think it deepens your emotional toolbox that you can tap into in the studio. And I think a lot of times we're really obsessed with youth in our culture. We're really obsessed with new. And so it's like, who's the next new big producer? And like, I see we like shiny things. I see the appeal in that, but I think we downplay how important experience is from a live standpoint as well as from a production standpoint. Mm-hmm. So, I think that like my life experience is a massive well of inspiration that I draw from, particularly when I songwrite. But also in terms of like, how I'm feeling the music. So yeah, I think that those would be my top three. Would be like surrealist art, imagery, my life experience, and then just live performances.
And you mentioned earlier that was it at an early age that you were playing the trumpet and the guitar, or is that something you like? How early of an age did you start that? And what was the motivation for you to pursue a career in music after you kind of said, "Oh, I know the guitar, I know the trumpet. I'm going to dive into this DJ and producing thing"? What was the strongest motivation that you had to make that jump?
Sure. So trumpet was my first instrument.
Mine too.
Yeah. Oh, really? Nice.
Well, okay. I played it in the 5th grade.
Okay. Yeah. I think it was around there. I think I took trumpet lessons for like 3 years. But it was really cool. I had a really cool trumpet teacher that was more into the jazz side of things, and that definitely influences, like I said, the way that I write melodies. Like I like off hits, or like, I like borrowing from the next scale over. Like I like to break the music theory rules and the ways that they can be broken the right way. I like to incorporate that into my productions. Guitar, oh man, I was like super into grunge rock and alternative. A lot of the Seattle sound actually really inspired me when I was an angsty young pre-adolescent, or just barely adolescent teen. So I taught myself to play guitar, and I was in some shitty bands, and that was a dark time in my life. And then I really got into dance music in high school when the rave scene in New England was just really kind of getting its legs under it. And I knew some of the people involved in the scene. But they wouldn't let me come to the parties. I had a major drug and alcohol problem early in high school, and it's really funny to me because you just wouldn't think that I knew the people that were moving the bulk of like ketamine and ecstasy into New England, and they were like, "We're not selling you any of this. We're not taking you to parties," because they were like, "We're not going to be responsible for what happens to you if you get on this stuff." And I was really fortunate to get sober at 16. So I think at the point I was at, I was either going to get into much harder drugs than I was doing, or I was going to make a change. So I sobered up, and then that's when I was already into the music, and I would like, Liquid Todd used to spin live on the radio in Boston where I grew up on Saturday nights, and I would just like be in my bedroom dancing all night to his stuff. Like, But then I started going out dancing all the time after I got sober. I had like a crew of friends that we would go together and kind of like look out for each other and keep each other safe. But we had so much energy, we would just dance all night. And that really solidified my connection to dance music. It was such an uplifting and spiritual experience for me, and such a healthy release. And it didn't matter like what kind of darkness was going on in my life, and there was plenty. I could just get on the dance floor, move my body, and just get lost in the music, and just feel this sense of oneness with everybody else that was there, and with the music, and with the universe, and just kind of let everything go. And so that was my connection to music. And I was breakdancing. That was my connection to music for a while, like through college. And then I moved to San Francisco when I graduated college and started going out, and the scene was different there. This is right in the thick of like hipsterdom, when it was real hipsterdom, before it became a trend and a fad and a commodified thing. It was like, it was a pretty small group of like specific people that had a specific style. And that was kind of like, there was an intersection between the house scene in San Francisco and that kind of hipster movement. And so I was going to parties, and the thing about hipsters at that time is they did not dance. Like, no matter what, they could be at the best show ever, and they're standing there with their arms folded, maybe nodding their head a tiny bit in approval if it's like the best song they've ever heard in their entire life. They were just super stoic. So I'm going to parties and I'm like digging the music, and no one's dancing. And that was what kind of pushed me into DJing and organizing shows, because I felt like there was this element that had been so important to me that was just missing from the scene there. And so I wanted to bring that. So I started throwing warehouse parties. I started booking artists that I knew would bring that kind of energy to the dance floor. I built my whole brand around, like, it was always, like, see you on the dance floor was like on all of my marketing for my parties. And and I started DJ. It was all right around the same time. I like left an environmental fundraising job I had been at for a few years, and just bought turntables on a lark, because I got a crazy deal for them on Craigslist. I ended up like selling them 9 years later when I moved to LA at a profit. I mean, that's like, the kind of steal I got. But was in the record store collecting records. That became an obsession. I fell in love with DJing right away when I tried it. I mean, I'd like learned to beat match from some friends earlier on who were like, bedroom DJs. But then, once I got decks, I was, 6, 7, 8 hours at a stretch, just like, the magic of mixing 2 tracks together, particularly when you don't have a sync button. It's like getting that and making it happen for the first time, and, figuring out what mixes go all together. It was just like an awesome journey. And then things just kind of grew from there. My first party was really successful. I had Roy Davis Jr. from Chicago to headline, and it was really well attended. And, some people saw me spin before Roy and like gave me a residency at this little lounge right away. And things just kind of were plugging along. My parties were growing. And then everyone was telling me that I needed to get in the studio and produce music. And I resisted it for a while. I resisted a lot of things. Honestly, sometimes I'm just resisting to change. Like, I resisted shifting from vinyl to CDJs for as long as I could until people stopped printing, vinyls and everything. And I was like, I want to just like, I just want to be a DJ. And then I just saw a ceiling coming. I knew that it's like, it's not 1994 anymore. I wasn't going to be able to really build beyond a certain point just as a DJ. And then now I see some people that can do it, and I'm very envious. And like, I think Jack Master isn't a DJ, he just has a label, and it's like that dude is touring constantly just on the strength of his DJing. And like, I wish I could do that. And like, not from an ego standpoint, but like, I feel like I'm good enough to do that. But it's just like, the marketing is so difficult if you're not putting music out. It's like such a huge touch point. So in part, I got in the studio for that reason, from a sort of brand building standpoint. And I don't love that. And that's partially why I made that shift in my trajectory after producing tracks for a couple of years of like, I don't want to be producing music as a marketing plank. Like, I want it to be authentic and come from my heart. But and I just like, I picked up and learned little bits along the way. And then I worked a bunch of different jobs while I was doing all of this. And then I hit a point in like 2010 where both things were kind of bubbling. I was working in a really cool marketing agency in San Francisco called Flavor Group, consulting the car brand Scion, which was a sub-brand of Toyota that is now defunct, but they were sponsoring everything under the sun. They were like Toyota's cool brand. So, and I was like the lead account manager on that. So I was consulting Scion on like what parties to sponsor in the market. And I was like producing events for them. Like if they had a new thing that they were launching, you know, we'd throw some crazy party with like a huge budget, you know, with a bunch of headliners and stuff. And so I was a little bit of, I had this kind of executive career happening in the cool end of marketing, while I ended up graduating from doing warehouse parties into doing proper clubs, and I was holding down a residency at Temple Nightclub, which is a 1,200 person spot, and I was doing every Friday night there, promoting and DJing there twice a month, and I was doing guest DJ sets out and around town, and I was started to play it, like I played at Symbiosis Gathering. I was starting to get some festival spins and Outside Lands, and I was launching my own music label that I ran for probably 8 or 9 years before giving that up. But yes, I had all this going on at once, and it just hit a boiling point. I was just starting to burn out, and I had to make a decision, like which path do I take? And you know, I've kind of always valued freedom and flexibility and adventure more than I value comfort and stability, and I really hope that doesn't bite me in the ass when I try to retire. But it was just pretty clear that like I wanted to pursue this as a career and not just as a hobby. And so yeah, I just kind of got the bug.
Yeah.
At that point.
How would you define success as a DJ producer? Would it be a Beatport top 10 hit, a sold out tour?
Well, yeah, I would think.
What are those things? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it's the latter. The tour thing that's what I've been chasing, and it's like I've not been able to make happen. So of course, that's the one that I fixate on, right? Like I've been very fortunate. I've been supporting myself solely as a DJ since 2010. So it's been 12 years now that I haven't had another job. And that in and of itself, I think a lot of people look at that and say like, dude, you're successful. Like that's, you know, most people can't do that. And I hear that. And for me, it's like, I just have a bigger goal of reaching more people with my music. And again, like I come from this standpoint of really wanting to effectuate an experience for other people that I had. I just want to like reach people and lift them up and, you know, and let like some universal life force flow through me into them. And so, that for me is where, you know, I'm hung up on that right now. Of course, like if that happens, it'll probably be something else, because that's always like how my mind works. You know, I'll move to the next thing. Like if you had asked me from a production standpoint a few years ago, I would have said like, oh man, if I could have a track that had, you know, 6-figure streams on Spotify, that would be amazing. And now I have a bunch of them and I don't care. You know, just like it's an accomplishment, but you know, like I don't think that has, you know, made any kind of massive shifts for me in my career, which is strange. I actually think it should. And so I don't know if it's I don't have the right team to leverage that or what, but you know, so sometimes there's no there. And so I wonder if it's that way with touring for me, but it's because live performance is like my favorite part of all of this. That's really, you know, that's the one that I kind of like salivate after, you know, and I just want to be like out there, you know, traveling to different markets and kind of bringing the good word.
Any market in particular that you would want to go to, or a region that you'd want to tour? Is it a US based tour, a European tour, a South Seas tour, or all of them?
Yeah, I think all of them. I kind of wonder if it would be easier for me to break in Europe than in the US. Sometimes it seems like there's a hometown thing that can be really, really hard to break through. And I ran into that when I was in San Francisco, which is a big part of why I moved to Los Angeles. I just felt like everybody kind of knew me there and still saw me as the person I was when they met me. And so it was, you know, I knew a lot of people that were like deep in the music industry there. It's not a huge industry in San Francisco, right? You had Home Records, you had, well, it was Blue Collar Entertainment, now they're Liaison Artists, and you had Dirty Bird, and like Naked Music as kind of an adjunct of Home. And yeah, I just kind of felt like no one really took me seriously as an artist there, you know, because they all knew me when I was a flyer rat, you know, like before I started throwing my own parties, like I had a job for this company called YBR, Yellow Brick Road Promotions, like literally like going to venues and handing out flyers all night. And so, yeah, so sometimes I wonder, like, because, I mean, I've played some really prevalent US festivals, right? Like I've played
Mm-hmm.
at Coachella, Outside Lands, Life is Beautiful, South by Southwest. I did an after party for Decibel Festival in your town.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like that's totally missing, but I've not done like the grind of like playing in the primary and secondary markets, right? Like I've done one-offs. Like I've played Seattle, I've played Portland, I've played Vegas, I've played New York, I've played um, Boston, like you know, so it's not that I never play out of town, but I've not done like a proper like, you know, 4 dates a weekend, you know what I mean, for like a couple of months or a month. And I sometimes wonder if I could do a tour in Europe, if that would open the US market to me, because I see that happening for a lot of people. So
Mm-hmm.
strategically, yeah, I think Europe could be really cool. But also like I love beautiful places. So like, you know, some of the resort areas in Mexico I think would be amazing. I see what's going on in Tulum. I think that's incredible. Or
Yeah.
you know, I love Bali in Thailand. Not that I've been, but I love like the pictures I see from there. So that like if I could, you know, if my DJ career could take me to beautiful like natural places, that would be incredible for me. And then also like, you know, another thing that's been a big goal of mine is this whole wellness thing is kind of taking off beyond just the DJ world, but we're seeing these transformational festivals pop up, and I'm thinking of like Digital Festival and Lightning in a Bottle, and just these like, you know, Earth Dance, just these more, they're music festivals, but they have yoga and they have really high quality organic food, and they're just like on this like, I don't want to say higher vibration because I don't want, it's not like it's better, but it's just different. It's a different focus. And so that would be another like big focus of mine. It's like because I live that lifestyle, I feel like I want to represent for those festivals. And it kind of confuses me that seemingly they don't skew towards booking people that act, because that's not like I'm the only DJ. Like there are a lot of DJs and producers and electronic musicians who do have a health and wellness focus.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like that level of alignment doesn't seem to happen, because I see some of the acts that these folks book and I'm like, yo, this dude's just on like a 6-year bender. Like what, how does that make sense with like Alex Gray artwork and, you know, Kundalini yoga? Like what, you know, so that's a big goal of mine too, is to kind of push my brand into those types of events also. And I've been able to do that locally. Like I played for Daybreaker here. They do an incredible morning party. And then funny that we say the word bender, but I have a friend who has a brand called Bender, but it's not about alcohol. It's a yoga and music brand, because bendy. So I've gotten to do some of that stuff locally, but yeah, I'd love to push into some of those larger festivals that focus on that, because I feel like that's an audience that is in alignment with who I am as a person.
And, and if you could host an event of your own, because it sounds like you put on events right now, an event of your own without any limitations, name 5 things you would have at that event.
That's an awesome question. Yeah, I think a high quality organic vegan food would be one. Yoga would be another. I mean, it could be a different movement modality, but I think there's like, yoga is a really great fusion of physical fitness and like mental focus and concentration. I would love some live art, particularly like if I could find some magical realist painters, that would be amazing. I would want it to be outdoors. So I kind of call that a fourth, just because like to me there is like a very distinct element when an event is like outdoors and open air versus it being indoors. And then I would just want a lineup of like incredible music curated. And one thing that I don't like in terms of where stuff's going with stages is it seems more and more that like one stage will have one sound for the whole time, and it's like I don't know, like I love all forms of house music, or most of them. And so I think you can build an arc like within the house world, like where it starts off kind of Balearic or deeper, and then builds into, you know, maybe some more uplifting Chicago stuff or more soul driven stuff, and then gets like a little darker and techier, and that goes on. and then like ends out like with a more melodic progressive. Like, so like having an arc to the music, and maybe giving DJs some freedom to explore and express different sounds and moods. Because so much of the time I feel like we're doing these festivals, it's 1 hour set, and it's literally like the same production with a slightly different bass line and different a cappella loop the whole time if it's a tech house stage. Or if it's a techno stage, it's like, you know, a different clap pattern. It's just like, it's very samey. And like, I get that like people want to brand a sound. But for me, the exciting thing about going to see a DJ as opposed to going to see a live act is I like when I don't know what I'm going to hear. When the DJ can interact with the crowd, read the audience's energy, funnel that into the music, spit it back out of them, direct it in different ways, and just go on a journey. And those are my favorite sets. And so I really would like to represent that in the way that I would book it out.
Are you still able to go back to your original roots before you started DJing and remember what that's like to be on the dance floor for that first time and see that DJ play? Or have you, I don't want to use the word jaded, but your experience I've done this 20 times. I've been here 30 times. I've been here 85 times. I've been here 900 times. I know exactly what key they're going into next. They're going to drop this. I already know that track. I've heard it played 15 times. Is the magic still, are you still able to gather that magic? Like
the answer is that if there's a special DJ playing, yes. Like when I saw Fatboy Slim at Sound, I was like dancing my ass off all night. When I went and like last time I saw Tiga, last time I saw Green Velvet, like, yeah, if the DJ has that kind of knack for reading the energy and really bringing it, yeah, I can totally get there. But I would say that it is astronomically more difficult for me to get there with all the training, with the trained ear, and like with all the experience. And you're right, like I couldn't even fathom to guess how many club nights I've been to in the last 26 years, however long I've been going out. I mean, it's an enormous number. So yeah, it's not as easy. It's like I'm not as easily impressed, I would say, or like I can't like access that as quickly because of just the, it's not new anymore.
Yeah, one thing that's happened for me in my local town here, I've been going out for 30 years here, and it's kind of hard after being through so many venues, rise and fall of venues, going out, and even the ones that have stuck around, I know the green room, I know the back room, I know the bartender, I know the workings. And I kind of, after last year, I took a bucket list kind of thing for my birthday, and I went to New York, and one of our DJs was opening for Le Youth at the Brooklyn Mirage.
Okay.
And have you been there before?
No, but I hear it's amazing.
It set the bar for me now that I will really only go to nightclubs outside of my own hometown. On the whole, I am working closely with a couple of nightclubs here in my city, so I will go to those clubs. Nice. But on the whole, I strive now to want to go out and see other nightclubs. That's why I'm excited to go down to LA, and with our new Southwest venture we have going on in Phoenix, going out to the clubs in Phoenix, getting out to LA a little bit more, and hop skipping over to Vegas and just exploring that territory with the new division of what I got going on. But I'm actually going to ADE for my first time this year. And I've never even been to Europe before, let alone Amsterdam, let alone ADE in Amsterdam. So we're super excited for that to be taking place, and getting out there and being a little bit more international with the show and catching what that international vibe is, because it does make me feel like I'm a kid again. Like I'm 18 again, and I'm going up and seeing Donald Glaude, which is one of the first DJs I ever saw play.
That dude will scream over like however many 1,000-watt sound system like at the top of his lungs, and you'll hear him over the music. Yeah,
and that was the craziest thing.
Part of the rave DJs that I would go out and hear when I was a kid.
Yeah, I had never seen that before. At the club we were going at, the Underground, he would just make some fucking noise, people. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? What's going on? I've never seen a DJ turn the music off and scream out loud, and the crowd just goes insane. I mean, he's a good buddy of mine. I know him pretty well, hometown hero, and love the guy. Super nice guy, super chill. And that was my first experience, and I want that experience when I go out. And so I feel a little like I've been in the Seattle market for so long in my life, but when I go out to those other markets and experience that, I'm glad to hear that you can still turn that ability on and remember what that's like, because I think that's key. But speaking about learning about things, looking at your Twitter account, I was going through that, and I quote, "If I've learned anything about growing a house music career in the last couple of years, it's that I should have gone to accounting school." Why is that?
That's a jab at John Summit. Yeah, he was an accountant that just was like fairly successful with that and was like, fuck this, I'm going to become a house music artist. And like, you know, he went from 0 to hero like that. So yeah, I was just like kind of taking the piss a little bit. Yeah.
The reason why I went to school to be an accountant. So I'm like, I don't see the parallel here. What's
yeah.
Okay, I
think that's Sid's story too. I think Carlos was an accountant. I think I should look that up so I don't misspeak. But no, John Summit was absolutely an accountant, and then turned DJ and has like lit the world on fire. So,
well, and speaking of, you know, schooling and in jobs and careers or switching careers, because it sounded like they had a career in doing that, is, you know, but now they're successful. Success doesn't last forever, especially for an artist. And so, what do you do to save up for the future? What do you invest your earnings in, or what do you do?
Stock market.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a long play for me. So I know a lot of people that are excited about crypto, and I think crypto can be great in the short term. It's also very volatile, so it's higher risk, higher reward. But for me, at the stage I'm at in my life, yeah, like I just want to grow my money in the market so that I'll have something to retire on.
And I see you do have a merch store. And are you looking into NFTs as well by any chance?
I have done one that was not successful. It wasn't marketed well. So now I feel a little bit gun shy about that space, because it's just a little discouraging when you like create something and no one bids on it. It was like a giant fail. And like, that doesn't happen with other types of merch for me. But you know, I have some friends who are kind of deep in that space, so we'll see. Maybe I'll give it another try, you know, in the next 6 months or something here. But I would want a little bit more supportive platform than I did the last one on Ethereum, and it was just kind of like, I maybe it's a whole different marketing strategy that I don't understand, and maybe it's like the people that are into buying NFTs are not the normal people that follow my music. So it's figuring out like, how do I get it in front of those right people? Because I feel like there has to be some kind of familiarity, right? Like, just here's an artist I've never heard of that's like releasing an NFT. Like, what is the value there? Versus like, if it's, oh, there's this designer that I know their stuff is going to be worth $5 million in 5 years, so I'm going to buy it for 10,000, or, you know, whatever it is. Like with that whole thing. Also, like, I have mixed feelings about NFTs in general, like, but we'll see. You know, like I'm not always the earliest adopter of things. I know some people that are just like printing money in that space, and like, good for them. But also, sometimes those things collapse, and so I don't know if that's going to be a bubble or not. And so I feel a little bit ambivalent about it. Whereas like, how would I feel if one of my fans paid a bunch of money for an NFT that then had no value in 2 years? Like, am I going to feel great about that? Probably not. So yeah, I feel like I'm, you know, I've dipped my toe in a little bit. It feels a little, I don't know. Are you in that whole Web3 space?
We're looking at it as, because the assets that we create, it's right now making a graphic file or making an MP3 file, you know, a music wave file. I'm going to be interviewing one of the first NFT record labels that was created here soon. But
is that RAC's label?
I don't have it up in front of me. I know it's supposed to be the world's first NFT label.
Got it. RAC and Goldroom have a whole thing going on with that.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I got to check with one of my booking guys. So I got 3 to help me out with this, but super excited for that. But we're a video show, so we have video assets, and figuring out, the thing is trying to figure out how to get a gigabyte file as a whole NFT. I don't want to give 20 seconds of the show or 10 seconds of the show, and here that's your piece of the show you have as this NFT. But we're looking into that space, and my one of my developers that I work with on a number of other projects, he actually has a compression tool where we did it the other day and got 700 megabytes, down to about 170 megabytes. He designed that compression software himself. So we're super excited to get that up. And you're right, the value of it, I'm that's about as far as I am into the biz. I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah, I understand. It's totally speculation.
And so I wouldn't probably say, oh, I'm going to dump $100 into each of these, and say they're worth $100 a piece. I might start out and say, okay, these are worth $2 a piece or $3 a piece, and I might make 50 of them. So I'm putting $100 into it, but they're $2 a piece. And if you like this interview that I did with Eric Sharp, go ahead and buy an NFT of this interview and you can hold on to that. As a fan, like it would be more for fans like, hey, I got the NFT of that. Because one of the things that I'm seeing, which is interesting, is Twitter did this not too long ago, that if you put up an NFT as your picture, it would give you like a special logo.
Yeah.
And this is an NFT photo. So I'm wondering if, Facebook, Instagram, all the other places will follow suit with that, and start saying this is an NFT photo. You actually do own the rights to this photo. Or how far could that go into social media and saying, hey, you don't own the rights to this photo. You can't put it up here unless you own the NFT of it, or And is all of a sudden our mobile device is going to NFT a photo right as we take it? Will it go and serve it and go, okay, you do own the rights to this. This came from your account. It mints all in the background for you and assign the value that you want as a penny, 5 cents, $1. And it just goes poof, and goes right to the marketplace and it's out there. Or, you can grant permissions to it and say, this is almost like your own personal copyright. It's like protecting it and saying, hey, you can't use my picture. That's where I'm curious to see where this goes, because one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to go back and gift, say, Eric, thank you for being on the show. I can't get you a bottle of wine, or I can't get you a box of flowers, or, whatever. But I can go, hey, Eric, here's this NFT I made of your show. Hold on to it, put it, and just something as a gift, just to explore the marketplace is where we're looking at. Because one of the moves that we're moving towards is into VR and AR, and those areas. We just launched 2 nightclubs in alt space that we're getting ready to rock out, and had a lot of people come in and going, this is one of the best nightclubs I've seen. So we're super excited to start getting this up and running and live streaming in there. And inside those clubs, it's basically, we've built it in the way like it's 4 walls and a roof and floor, but it's basically a full gallery. So we're just going to line, like you're kind of come in, and the amount of content we're putting out, the amount of shows that we have, we can line that whole place on the walls with all the past episodes, NFTs, and say, you want to buy an NFT of this? Okay, $2. Boom. That's our merch.
Yeah.
And I can make shirts and merch all day long, but can somebody get a copy of that episode? And they can download it, but they won't have the NFT version of it. And maybe there is a marketplace they can take that to and go, hey, I got Eric Sharp's NFT. Anyone want to buy this? And they go, I'll buy it for $4. And they're like, oh, wow, I bought it for $2 and I sold it for $4. Yeah. Not trying to do the $10,000 and $5 million thing. I mean, maybe if I got Tiesto or Carl Cox on there, I gotta be able to get up a little bit. And we're working on those too. Yeah. But that's about as far as we've gotten into exploring the marketplace. And I hear that, is it E2 or E3, the new Ethereum coming out is going to be even better, more secure. Okay. And that they're also trying to work on a way that please do not take this as an official quote or anything. I just read stuff that I see online that apparently the new system they base it on will be much more eco-friendly. Mm-hmm. And it could be
that's been a thing with gas usage.
Yeah. So it should be more eco-friendly the way it works, but it's supposed to work, but they don't know if it will work. If it doesn't work, then it goes, and then people go, no, we're not. So that world is still figuring itself out. But I think just to, I always ask people, are they jumping on and what have they done? What has been their experiences? I had a girl, Saint Kiriaki the other day. She's out of LA and she's just like all about it. Just books, art, fashion, paintings, everything. She was part of the first ever NFT online virtual marketplace in virtual reality. So like you said, some people are just printing money, and some are like, I don't know where this is going. So
I think to me, it makes more sense if there's something that actually has value in the real world. Like if, I don't want to spill the beans on something that I was just spoken to about, but let's say that like there's a large number of NFTs, and everyone that has one can get access for free to something that other people have to pay for. Things like that, I think where there's a tangible value in reality, that's more interesting to me. Like I said, I know there's a market for people like, in video games, people pay all this money to have a certain skin, which is just basically like an outfit on a character. I cannot for the life of me understand why someone would spend that kind of money. Like, it's like, I don't know if you remember, there was an iPhone app. There was an iPhone app. It was called I Am Rich. And
yes, I think
the App Store ended up shutting it down. But they sold 10 of them. The top price in the App Store that you could sell something for was $999.99.
Yeah.
So it was $999.99. All the app did, it was like a screensaver that had a glowing red, like ruby or something. And like 10 people bought this. Like, for what? So that they could show people that they were rich. So like, I get that there is like a thing for that. I'm just like, that money could go to much better things than that. So I'm more interested in things that would have a real world value.
I heard about, there was and it might have started in LA or wherever it is, but you buy the NFT and it is your ticket, your lifelong ticket to get into the events.
Yeah.
That ticket can be transferable to somebody else, but that is only people with that ticket get in. And I love that idea because one of the things we'll do with our membership program with the DJ sessions is when you sign up for $50 a year, or you're part of our virtual reality club that can get you into certain areas for $50 a year or $4 a month, you'll get an NFT pass. And that NFT pass will get you in here. It'll get you in here. It could get you into our physical events as well and get you the discounts. But that's your new membership card. And I like it from that. And it may be a special logo. And every year when you re-up, we get you a new logo. So there's a new NFT for all the people that sign up. That's where I see it really being cool.
And then if something really takes off, then it's like, to your 10 years in, someone who has the first year NFT, that's going to have like all this cool value to it. I think,
absolutely.
Like you were there at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think that's gonna I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about that idea right now with NFTs. I think that's a good sign. I think that's what we're gonna do. Nice. A couple last questions here, though. If you could put one non-famous person in the spotlight who means a lot to you, other than your direct family or friends, who would that be and why?
One non-famous person I could put in the spotlight that is not direct family or friends. That is a super hard question because a lot of the first people that come to mind are famous, right? I mean, I feel like it would have to be some kind of unsung hero. And I'm trying to think if I like know any unsung heroes, but they're not my friends, right? Like, I feel like it should just be someone that's like happily content with their life, And so I don't have a specific person for that, but I think so much of the time, like with media, we're saturated with like bad news and like, everything is catastrophized. And like, look, there's a lot of like gnarly things going on in the world, but there's also like a lot of beauty, So I would say either like, an incredibly talented artist who's never been exposed that's creating something really beautiful, or like I said, just like a regular person who has a happy life, that just is like a joyful human being that like doesn't have some spectacle, because we're so into like everything being bigger, better, faster, more here, and like someone that just leads a simple life, maybe they have a garden and grow their own vegetables, but someone who's just content. I feel like we could pay more attention to contentedness. Like I think we have a lot of times we get caught on a goal of being happy, which a lot of us translate to just like experiencing joy all the time. And so we end up chasing this thing. And in the meantime, like we're missing our whole life. And like I fall prey to this. Like I fall prey to this 100%, which is why I would want to spotlight someone who like probably doesn't have necessarily as good a life as me from the outside, but they're just like happy and content to be right where they're at. And that's a massive goal of mine. So if I could find that person, and I know tons of them exist, that just like can't think of someone offhand that I'm not friends with that fits that profile, that would be, I think that person would probably have a lot of simple wisdom to share that people need to hear.
Awesome. Good answer. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you get going back to having fun in the sun or whatever it is you do down there in LA?
Yeah, totally. Well, we mentioned my EP that just came out. So if your listeners are interested, I would love for them to check that out. It's on all different platforms, just under my name, Eric Sharp, and it's the Emergence EP. I have more tracks that are done that will be coming. So I think we're probably going to go through my socials in a minute, but if you tune into those and watch, I'll definitely have more coming. And then you can also find DJ mixes of mine like on various platforms. So if you want to experience more of, the live side of what it is that I do, there's plenty of options to do that on SoundCloud and Mixcloud. And, I've recently done mixes for Insomniac Radio and the Music Essentials podcast, and just like, my publicist, Jamie Sloan, has been smashing it. So she's kind of gotten me all over everywhere. And that's how I got connected to you. So
That Jamie.
Yeah.
I have a bug in Jamie's ear frequently.
Oh, it was one of her staff that put this together. So.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you had found us through Alex Harrington and said, oh, like, okay. Interesting. There's I like I said earlier before the show, we're sending out 300-400 emails a week, and I get all this coming in. So, but Jamie's mind is in my head.
Jamie is incredible. She is everywhere all at once, man. And she's just got a work ethic that, that's like, you find people like that in this business, because there's a lot of people that overpromise, underdeliver. When you find people that really will like go to the wall for you, you keep close for sure. Yeah. So just like, there is more music coming. I just wrapped a remix for a Brooklyn artist named Hello Lightfoot. I don't have a release date for that yet, but it's been approved. So just like finalizing that, and that'll probably come out at some point in the summer, I think. And more singles and collaborations, and then, probably another EP down the line. I'm kind of doing a thing where I want the EPs to just be solo productions, maybe featuring a vocalist, but then I love collaborating too. So with collaborative tracks, that's going to be just singles that are kind of be tossed out on different labels.
Awesome. And drop those links.
Sure. So the easy way to find me is just Eric Sharp Music. So that's my @ on Twitter. That's my @ on Instagram. That's my @ on TikTok. My website is ericsharpmusic.com. But Instagram is probably the stickiest platform for me. And then, in terms of streaming, streaming wherever you want, Spotify has been kind of the hub that my music gets the most traction and attention on. So if you care about that kind of thing, it's a good place to follow me and, get my stuff in your release radar right when it comes out.
Definitely. I was listening to your Spotify right before the interview. Some awesome stuff there.
Thanks,
so
man.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions. We'll be following up with you here and staying in touch with you over the years just to watch your career and everything grow.
Thanks, Darren. It's a pleasure meeting you. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
All right.
On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter, and that thing called Facebook and all the socials out there, but mainly our website, thedjsessions.com. For the virtual sessions, I'm Darren. That's Eric. I always get these pointers wrong. Coming to you live for the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.